Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. I am Chef Matt, and this is PA120 Patisserie. This is our week 12 study hall, our final study hall together. It has flown by. I told you guys it flies by. It really does. You guys have been a great class. I'm going to miss you, but let's talk about what we have to do for this weekend. So yesterday we had our live session and we went over a lot of stuff, and we're going to watch some videos today. I've got a real-time video of me covering a cake in real time in an old demo. And let's get started. Let me share my screen. Should be the class page. And tiered cake assembly. This one's pretty straightforward. The two videos in the interactive recipe book for this week are both pretty straightforward. I think you're going to get more benefit out of watching the one that I do. So honestly, this fondant is too thick. Okay, I know I've said this before. There's a lot of things that happen in these videos that are okay, wait. There's a lot of things that happen in the filler portion of these videos that are not perfectly correct. Because what happens is when they're making these videos, the director who may not be a culinary person will say, hey, can we get a picture of you doing this? And then they roll it out really quick and lay it over, and it might not be the right thickness. This fondant is way too thick for this. And this is not how thick the fondant is in the actual video. If you remember when we did the mousse cake, that was another example. They just wanted to build it to have it. And then when they cut it, it was a different cake than what they worked with. So that's what's going on. This is how you, that's a great way to push the dowels down. What you usually do is you'll take your whole dowel, push it all the way down, and then mark it with a pen, pull it out, cut it. And then if your cake is level, you can cut them all to that length. Then when you get ready to push it in, just insert it and then use the column to push it down the rest of the way, just like he's doing. And then it sits flat. All right, we've got the beautiful flowers on the cake, and he is doing the tiered assembly. Work with your gum paste. Your fondant. Do what I said to do yesterday, and we're going to watch it again, like weigh it out and then roll it to the that size diameter from the chart. If you guys remember from this one, like use this chart and then roll it out to that size. That's going to give you the right thickness of it. That's your cheat. That's your cheat code for this assignment. But you do want to knead it like he's doing to get it pliable, to get it bendable, so that it rolls out and it doesn't crack. And if it's cold, it's going to be a little bit harder to even do it. Okay, once you get it, you're going to roll it out. And you're going to get it to, you know what, let's just skip this. Let's go to mine. Let's watch this one about how he places the flowers. It's pretty straightforward. You know what? No, we're going to go right to mine. And then we can watch these if you guys have questions. I want to make sure we have enough time to watch this one. All right, so there's me in my kitchen. You can tell it's an old video because my cabinets are not blue. So the first thing I am going to do is I am going to show you guys how to make what we call a sachet or a poor man's purse. And see how I've got some ribbon right there in my hand. Two things. So first of all, there we go. So this is cheesecloth. It's cheesecloth. So I've put a mixture of cornstarch and powdered sugar in it, 50-50, equal parts of each. Now I'm going to fold it all up. You know how hobos, when you're a kid, if you played hobo and you took a kerchief or a handkerchief and tied it up like so, and then I tied it around with the ribbon in the top. And that is what we use to dust our table. Because when you do this, it puts out very, very, very little bit of it. You don't want to use all cornstarch because the cornstarch will take the flavor out of it dilutes the flavor and it becomes less sweet. And you don't want to use all powdered sugar because powdered sugar is hygroscopic and it could become too sweet and then start pulling moisture out of the air. So I'm just tying that up in a bow. And now, see, and then I can do exactly what I did and just kind of tap, tap, tap. And then it puts down a very minimal amount of cornstarch powdered sugar mix so we don't get too much of it on our surface area. All right, what are we doing next? Definitely, if you can spread what we're doing in this video out over more than one day, you'll be happier. Like, you want to build your cakes one day, then I would, like, if it were me and this is due Sunday, I would build my cakes today, let them set up overnight, get up in the morning, crumb coat my cakes, refrigerate them, then final coat my cakes, refrigerate them, and then maybe Sunday morning get up and roll out my fondant. Okay, I have already re-whipped my buttercream, and what this is a pot with a towel in it. So now I can position it so I can get in and out of it easier. So now I've got it exactly angled how I want to. That's another cheat code for you right there. So now it holds it in place. It holds it at an angle and it holds it up higher so it's easier for me to get to. Okay, hot towel. Let's jump ahead. All right, so there's my turntable. If you're gonna decorate cakes, you're gonna want to have a turntable. These are really the best ones, I think. This is like a wrought iron base. It's very heavy. The top is stainless steel. It's very industrial. They separate. You can just pull this right off the top, and then you can put a little bit of oil in there to grease it. And that is how they do. So if you have one of these and you pick it up, don't pick it up by pick it up by the base, because the suction will keep this from falling off right away, but it will fall off and then it'll scare you because it's heavy and it's loud. So pick it up by the base. These last forever. These are pricier than the plastic ones, but they last. They will last forever. And if I were making a 5-tier wedding cake, I could stack all 5 tiers on top of this on the turntable and be able to turn it and still work on it. I could grab this on both sides and do a handstand, and it would hold my weight and not bend. It is very, very, very well made. If you don't have the means to get one of those, because like I said, they are a little pricey, but it'll last your lifetime. This one is, God, 30 years old. Okay. Older than some of you guys in class, and it's held up pretty well. If you don't have the means to get one of these right away, but you want to get one, I would not get a plastic one. I would go to maybe IKEA or Home Goods or somewhere and just get like a Lazy Susan, because those are a little bit, because they're wood. If you get a wooden one, they last a little bit better than the plastic and they hold up a little bit better. And until you're able to get one like this, then you'll be much happier with the Lazy Susan. All right. So my cake, I've already final coated it. It's got a cardboard cut underneath. I think it's got a cardboard cut underneath it. Let me see. Where are we? 335. Okay. Okay, my 8-inch is on a transportation cardboard. So I've already cut this cake to fit. I've already cut the cardboard to fit this cake. And now this is on a cardboard so that I can move it around. Because this is buttercream, it is cold. See, look, there's my cardboard, cut it to fit my cake exactly. This is why we want to decorate cakes with European buttercream and not American buttercream. I could not hold my cake like this with American buttercream because no matter how cold it gets, it does not harden up like the butter does. So see, I'm able to do that without getting any fingerprints in it, without denting it in any way. Okay, so that is exactly why we use them. Don't use American buttercream, why we use European buttercream, because it's all butter. All right, what are we doing next? Notice, please, how flat my cake is. It's very flat on top. The sides are very straight. I'm putting my 8-inch back into the fridge because I have just crumb coated my 6-inch. All right, so that's crumb coated. So remember in the Here we go. Nope. I've got to move that so that stops happening. Okay. So in our list of building my cake, I've built the bottom tier, put it back in the fridge, built my top tier, put it back in the fridge, crumb coated my bottom, put it back in the fridge, crumb coated my top, put it back in the fridge, final coated my bottom, it's back in the fridge, and that is where we're picking up. Now I'm going to final coat my top cake and put it back in the fridge. Then cover the bottom with fondant, back in the fridge, cover the top with fondant, back in the fridge, dowel the bottom tier, stack the top tier, pipe my borders, put on my flowers, and don't forget to slice your cake and take your pictures. Um, all right, so back to here. And I think, let's see, do I so I'm just talking about it. Think I I I think I cut it like I pick it up and cut the cardboard to fit this. And because I've been moving it in and out of my fridge, and it's gotten cold and then it's kind of defrosted a little bit and then it's gotten cold, it's kind of sweated underneath. So that's sealing it to my cardboard right there. So that's holding it in place. If you notice, it's not sliding around. But always, always, always get it centered in the middle of your cardboard. Get your cake centered in the middle of your cardboard. Okay, I think I come back and cut it after I put my uh, okay, I think I cut it after I finish icing it. Okay. So what this is in my sink, this is my fresh buttercream. And what is in my sink that I'm about to pull up, this is my crumb buttercream because my cakes are chocolate. And whenever I'm icing them, whenever I end up with a crumb on my spatula, I wipe it into this bowl. And that bowl we use for the centers, there it is. That's my crumb buttercream. You can see it's got a lot of crumbs in it. It's got a lot of chocolate in it. See? So that's my crumb buttercream. So I will save this in the real world. And then when I build another chocolate cake with buttercream, I use this to go in the center because it doesn't matter if there's crumbs in the center, but I don't want any crumbs to be on the outside. So that's my crumb buttercream. Okay, so this is one of the rare times that you have a towel that you don't have to keep in your sanitizer. I'm just going to wet this and use it to wipe off my spatula so that my spatula is always clean when I get ready to do my final coat. Okay, so I'm picking up buttercream on my spatula, keep it clean. There's my buttercream, freshly whipped. I whipped it right when we got started. And it's easier to put more buttercream on than what you need and then take it off. Some people like doing the tops first. Some people like doing the sides first. It really doesn't matter. I usually do the sides first and then do the top last. Okay. And again, my buttercream is cold underneath, so I don't have to worry about it moving around. My crumb coat is very thin, very thin. All we need it to do is glue the crumbs down. And now while I'm icing it, I want to make sure that this spatula is my surfboard, the cake is the bottom of the ocean, and the icing is the water. And I want my spatula to always be on top of the water and never touch the cake. So we're always going to have a layer of icing between our spatula and our cake. That's what helps to keep the crumbs out of it. Notice how I have my arm way up over that. That's common that because it lets me see what I'm doing, because otherwise my arm will be in the way. All right, now as I'm icing it, I'm going to go ahead and point this out because it's a good place to see it. As I'm putting the buttercream on the side, I am encasing the cake in buttercream. I have to put enough buttercream on the side to come from the bottom to the top and come above, so that when I put the buttercream on the top, that layer meets this layer and it forms a corner. Right here, you can see cake. I am going to need to put more buttercream there because we need to get it a little bit higher. It needs to be about this high so that when we put the buttercream on top, it connects and then it completely encases it, and then we won't see that. But you can come back and do that at another point. Um, it's a little hard for me to do this because I'm trying to do it backwards. I'm trying to do it on the other side of the cake so you guys can see it for the camera. So if I were doing this in, if the camera were behind me, it would be different. All right. Now see, we've got it all the way up. There's another place that I need to build it up a little bit. I can fill in any places on the bottom. Okay. Notice what we want to do. We want to keep our sides very straight up and down. We have a tendency to hold our spatula at an angle and make it a little bit pyramid shape. So we want to watch out for that. There I am putting buttercream more on the top to push it up. So now that when we, yep, it will meet up and be good. I'm using my spatula to wipe off the excess that was on the bottom that builds up. Now I'm running it around the side to get off the excess right there. Notice also when I do this, I it's a very fluid motion. When I spin my turntable, it's we try to keep it moving, because if I turn it and stop and turn it and stop and turn it and stop while I'm trying to smooth out the sides, then we end up with, you can see the start stop places. And we want to avoid that. Keep it very fluid. Okay, we just looked at that. All right. So I came back and I cleaned off my sides. And now I'm going to cover the top. And so this, just so you know, the time is at like 7 minutes, 15 seconds. So I've done this in about 5 minutes. I have a lot of experience doing this. I have a lot of experience doing this. So I am going to go faster. Now, let's see. We did that. We did that. Cleaning up the side. And also pay attention while you're spinning it. You'll see where it's level and where it's not. It's more obvious when you spin it because you'll see it go up and down. My cake is, there's more buttercream on this side than there is on this side. So I'm going to need to take some of this down. Or if my buttercream is too thin on the other side, like if it's too thin over here and this is the right thickness, I may just need to put some more buttercream on it. It depends on how thick or thin it is, and that decides what I need to do. Okay, now whenever I do wedding cakes, I cheat a little bit. This is a bench knife and mine is broken, so the handle doesn't stick out all the way there. I actually have a cake comb. It's called a cake comb. Like this, it's just a rectangle with no handle, and it sits flat. And when I spin it, it smooths out the side. I only use this when I'm doing wedding cakes. So this is gonna, as I spin it, it's taking off any excess buttercream. And then when I show you, you'll see all the buttercream is like on the bottom. There's not that much extra buttercream on the top because everybody has a tendency to hold their spatula at an angle. So that smooths out and straightens it up. Okay, see all the excess buttercream on the bottom? So now I've got it and I've got it. It's, yeah. Okay, so now my side's nice and straight. So now we're going to start working on the top. What time are we at? 8 minutes, 40 seconds. So pay attention how the top's not level right here. See what I'm talking about? So I'm going to move it, remove some buttercream from the top to level it. And then when I get ready to start smoothing out the top, it's what I call a pendulum and then airplane taking off. And I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm going to swing my spatula down, and the point at which it touches the cake, that is the height my cake is going to be. Then I am going to, once it touches the cake, it's going to turn into an airplane taking off the runway. So it's going to slowly raise up and then take off. And that's how I smooth out my top without having any lines. And I do this all the way around, and I smooth everything to the center, because once I get to the center, then as soon as I get to the other side of the center, my spatula is no longer touching the cake surface. See? So it goes down low, picks it up, and then you take off. And that's how you get a flat top. And it's still a little uneven, but I'm going to fix it. Oh, and notice how little I'm removing from the top when I do it. It's very, very little. I'm just evening it out. And then notice how I wipe my spatula off on my towel every time before I go back. Otherwise, what I just picked up will end up back on there and it won't be neat and it'll be a mess. So that's my clean towel that I use just to wipe off the buttercream. So in the bakery, if you're decorating cakes, you get to have a towel like this. Um, I usually keep it like in my sanitation, but I keep it under my table. But when I'm doing this, I keep it on my table. And I will use it to clean my table, but only at this point when I might spill buttercream. I don't use it to like wipe up cake crumbs or garbage or anything like that. It's only buttercream. All right, now my cake is looking pretty straight up and down. And yeah, we're about to cut the cardboard down. I knew I did it. Um, okay, so I did it. Okay, I fixed it. Where are we? Time. Okay, I'm cleaning up my spatula. Okay, there we go. I'm cutting it. So what I'm going to do, and I'm going to hold it in my hand. You could put it. You could also do this before you did your final coat. You could do it after you do your crumb coat. I did it. I waited because this cake is sticking to this cardboard. It's adhering really well. So I didn't want to put it on I didn't want to cut it, then put it on another transportation cardboard, and then have it slide around while I try to decorate it. So I'm going to cut it now with the cake on top of it. There are my scissors. Okay, there we go. Pick it up, move this out of the way. If you don't want to hold it in your hand, you can kind of sit it on the edge of your counter and cut it. But I am literally just using scissors. I'm cutting off a piece so I can get to the edge. And now I am just cutting it. I'm cutting it at an angle so it's going under the cake. So it's not away from the cake. I'm cutting it so it's going underneath the cake. And I'm going to cut it off in sections because I can't go all the way around at one time. But that is what I do to make sure that my cake is my cardboard is the exact size of my cake. It does pick up a little bit of buttercream, but I can come back and fix that after it sits in the fridge. I can come back and fix that easy, 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 easy. And now I put it on my transportation cardboard and put it back in my fridge. Okay. And so this cake is stuck to that cardboard really good. I don't have to worry about it falling off. And that's my transportation cardboard. Excellent. Any questions? Does it all make sense so far? All right. Now I'm putting my cake back in the fridge. I'm going to clean up. I don't see anything in the chat. I don't see any hands up. Um, good. Cake back in the fridge. Then I clean everything, get my buttercream off the table, wipe everything down so that I don't, because if I have any latent crumbs that have fallen off the cake, I don't want to roll my fondant in the crumbs. So I want to make sure this is really, really nice and clean. So when you're working with like a multi-tiered cake, you do that. You do one cake, you put it back in, you do the other layer, you put it in, clean your station, come back. Um, yep, get it out of my way. Clean up, clean up. It's a lot of fun. Okay, there's my bottom tier. What am I talking about at this point? Okay, I'm talking about the chart that we were discussing. So I'm going over the weight. So this is my 8-inch cake. I'm going to take 24 ounces or 680 grams, and I'm going to roll that to 3.5 for one side, 8 inches for the top, and then 3.5 for the other side. So I'm going to make sure it's 15 inches in a circle. Now it's not going to roll out in a perfect circle. So I need to make sure the shortest point to the opposite shortest point is 15 inches. And that is what we are doing now. So I have already scaled, I think I've already scaled out my fondant and put it back here in my bucket. I've wrapped it up and put it back in my bucket. I've already scaled out both of them. Yep, there it is. That's how much fondant I need to cover this cake. So I just brought it out to talk about that. We're putting it back in the fridge. And again, I can, like, right here there where there's a little bit of butter, I could wipe that with my hand and or my spatula and smooth that out. But cold buttercream is good. Okay, now we are unwrap my fondant, dust off my cake or my get my powder puff out, dust my surface, and now I knead it. And notice there's my other one. Um, I've already done this one for the 6-inch cake, just so you guys don't have to watch me do it twice. So what I've done when I've shaped it, notice how it's round and kind of even in height, it's kind of flat. That makes it easier to roll out into a circle. So I don't want to, make it into a ball and then wrap it up. It's easier to work with it if it's a hockey puck or a frisbee or a disc. Now, notice I move it around often. I pick it up and move it around because if this sticks to the counter when I'm rolling it out, it's not relaxing it. It's stuck. By it sticking, it's not able to relax. So if I never pick it up and move it, and I just keep rolling it out, and then I release it when I'm at the end, it may shrink enough to not cover my cake. So that's why we do this with pie dough too. We move it around often to make sure it's not sticking to your table. We also turn it often, flip it over to make sure that we're not, working too much cornstarch in it. We're not adding too much. We keep the minimal amount of cornstarch. Whenever it does what it just did right here where it sticks, that means it's getting wet and I need to add a little bit more cornstarch. And I may not need to put my bag on top of it. There may be enough residual cornstarch on the table for me to flip it over and then flip it back over. And I do that a lot too. See how it sticks right there? That's what's happening. So I'm also using my hands to keep it round. Move it around to evenly distribute and keep rolling. Okay, there's my yeah, Satin Ice. That's the website that we go to. They didn't used to make this. Fondant used to not taste very good. And Satin Ice was the first company that actually came out with a good tasting, good to work with, good quality fondant. Um, okay. So if there's some crumbs, see them? I'm just using a skewer to pick them out. It's easier to get them out now. That way, when I go to keep rolling it, that little hole where I picked out the crumb will smooth back out and even back out. So it's better to pick them out as you see them. And again, because it's a chocolate cake, it really shows up. Pick it up, relax it, turn it, get it round again. Flip it over, relax it, do it round again. Where are we? Notice how I'll change directions. I think you guys have probably seen that. Yeah, like I change directions to keep it round. I don't just keep going. No, I control how that goes. Fondant is like a very willful toddler. It's going to do what it wants to do, but we are smart enough to make it do what we want it to do. Now I am measuring it to see if it is the length that I need it to be. And that's my shortest point. From here to here is the shortest length. And that's what we've got to measure. Um, and I'm measuring it that way. I think it's long enough one direction, but it's not long enough the other direction. But notice the thickness of it. It's a good thickness for what we're wanting to do with it. Um, okay, so yep, I needed to roll it. It's not quite the right length the one way. It was like 15 and a half, and then it was 15. No, I'm sorry. It was 14 and a half by 15 inches the first time. And now it is 15 and a half by 16 inches. So that is good. All right, now in just a second, we're going to get ready to cover the cake with it. And there's two ways you can use it to cover the cake. You can pick it up with your rolling pin, which is a little tricky, or because it's not a very big cake, I could fold this in half and then get my cake and lay it, center it, and then unfold it. Okay. Either way works just fine. Folding it in half and laying it on there, you may end up with a crease down the middle. If you're using your rolling pin, which I think is what I do, yeah, you have to hold the pin because it rotates, it turns. The handles don't turn when the middle turns. So when I pick it up, I have to hold the rolling pin with my thumbs. Okay, because if I don't, it falls off. So when I pick it up, I hold it and then I put my thumbs on the board. Then I lay it from the side and run it across. It's also kind of tricky because I'm trying to do all of this in a small space on the counter. At your home, you'll be able to do it back here and then move it over here, and it's a little bit easier. All right, now when I go to put it on, I hold it and then I roll it over. And I have not centered it well. It's short on this side. So I'm going to pick it up and slide it over. Notice how I make sure I release it from the cake and then pick it up and slide it over. Now, um, could you roll the fondant on your dining room table? Yeah, if your dining room table is sturdy enough, because when you're rolling it, you're really using a lot of your upper body strength to press it down because it's not like pie dough. It doesn't want to. It's not as soft as pie dough. So as long as your table can take it, then yeah, you absolutely can. You absolutely can. If you have like one of those like my mom has one of those farmhouse tables that came with the house when she bought it, that would work good. She uses it for everything. Okay. Now I'm smoothing the pleats out. Notice how there's a lot of excess over here. It's going to be easy for me to go ahead and trim some of this off right now. When I trim it off, if I'm trimming right next to the cake, because right here it is smooth enough that I can trim right next to the cake, I want to make sure my knife is very sharp and I'm cutting straight down and not at an angle because we want it to cover the cardboard too. There. And then I can cut this away. Then I'm going to ball that back up, get it covered back up or in my bag. Now you guys can watch how we do this with the pleats. So we have a pleat there. And it's sometimes easier, like it was smooth over here, to start smoothing this out and get it going and then come back and take care of that. And also see how quick I'm working with it because we want to work with it while our cake is cold. Also, the fondant is going to start to dry out. I like covering my cakes on my countertop. Some people want to cover them on their turntable, and that doesn't always work great because then this fondant is hanging off the side of your turntable and it's pulling on your fondant and it might rip. So we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that the fondant is supported while we're smoothing it out. So notice how I lift it up, push it down. Everything is not, I'm not using fondant smoother. I'm just using my hands. I like using my hands. A lot of chefs do because you can feel imperfections. You can feel air bubbles a little bit better that way. So see, I've moved the wrinkle, I've moved the pleat off the cake. Still there, I've just moved it off the cake and then I trim it off. And I cut it off in sections because it makes it easier to work with. And that is it. There's my cake. So I fixed that, obviously. But that's that's how you do it. Now we're about to do the other tier. Uh, what time are we at? 22. Yes, so the cake is cold. The buttercream's cold, so there's no dents. There are a couple of air bubbles. So I'm using a pin and then I just like pierce it to let the air give the air a place to escape. And if I feel like there's another one right there, see it? And then I do the same thing. Now, I have this ribbon tied to the safety pin so I don't lose it when I'm working on my cakes. And then I hang it on a nail back in my pantry. So that's why there's a ribbon on it, so I can find it. So I don't lose it and it ends up in somebody's cake. That's the fondant smoother. You can use it. It's not necessary. You can use your hands just fine. We talked about that. Okay. And now this goes back in the fridge. And then we do the same thing for the other one. Okay. So cake in the fridge, wipe up my station. This is the fondant that I trimmed off. I am going to knead it back together. Okay. Because if I were to wrap it up, so there's all my fondant, all the scrap pieces. So, okay, notice how it is. If I do not need it, there's a lot of surface area. So there's a lot of opportunity for this to dry out and crack out and go bad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my cake away, then come back and knead this together to make sure it's all touching and there's no little layers inside of there before I put it away. And then I'm going to put it away and I'll be able to use it again. And then I'll flatten it out like a hockey puck so that it's easier to work with when I get it out the next time. And then I double wrap it and I put it back in my fondant ice tub because that tub is, oh, and I Ziploc it too. So I'll double wrap it, then put it in a Ziploc bag. And then I put it back in the fondant ice tub because that tub is really great for keeping the air out. All right, so we're getting our other cake out that I iced at the beginning of this. And I'm just cleaning up the edges. Now that it's cold, it's easier to clean up any places that are poking up. I've got my fondant. So I fixed my cake. Now it goes back in the fridge because we want to keep it cold. We don't want it to get too soft. I've got my fondant out. Okay, so I have not kneaded this one together. The other one was ready to go when I opened it up because I'd already done what I'm about to do. But you see how there's layers and creases? I need to get those worked out. So that is a bundle that I've not done this to. So I'm kneading it to get it like chewing gum consistency, keeping it flat. I'm not using any cornstarch right now because I don't have to worry about it sticking. Now I do because I'm getting ready to start rolling it out. Now that I've gotten it, all the creases and folds, now that that's all smooth, now I can start rolling it out. And then we do exactly the same thing that we just did the first time. I'm getting rid of any crumbs or air bubbles. And it's the same thing. I weighed it beforehand. That's my cheat sheet of so I don't say the wrong numbers during the demo. but I've got the sizes and the amounts written down on the cheat sheet. I've also got something sitting over here so my rolling pin doesn't roll off the table. There's my cheat sheet. It's got the amounts and the sizes. I have to draw pictures. Yeah. Okay. See what that just happened? Okay. I it sticks, and that's why it sticks to the rolling pin. I should have gotten a little bit more cornstarch powdered sugar on there before I rolled. So it's starting to stick a little bit there, but it really stuck there. So I need to stop as soon as you see that it sticks, stop, smooth out, see how it creased, smooth that out to make sure there's not going to be any cracks or wrinkles or lines in there. Okay, that's what I do. Now I'm going to dust it to make sure it doesn't stick again, making sure it's relaxed. Moving it around to keep it round. And I think I stopped taking notes for the second half of this video. So I think because this cake is smaller, I pick it up and lay it on top of the cake. I don't think I used the rolling pin this time when I put it on the cake because I want to show you guys a different way to do it. Measure it. And I always measure it early. Like I don't want to roll it too thin because if I go too thin, then it'll be too thin. If I make the circle too big, it'll be too thin. So I usually check it before we're there to make sure that I don't roll it too thin. All right, now go to get my cake out of the fridge. There it is on the transportation cardboard. Buttercream is cold, so I don't have to worry about denting it. Buttercream is thick, so you can't see the chocolate cake through there. You don't even know that's a chocolate cake. Yep, pick it up, center the center in the center. And then there we go. Now we do the exact same thing that we did before. We lift it, smooth it down, work the wrinkles off of the cake. So see how this one was really long? So I've kind of smoothed it out, but I've pushed this one here. So I'm going to have to lift this up again and smooth it out again. But that's okay because I can do that. And now I'm going to start turning it off just to make it a little bit easier to work with. See, because now that this has been cut off, when I go to smooth this one out, I have a place where I can take the excess. So I trim a little bit off, and then I can do the same thing again. We can work it off. Now we go straight down. But definitely, I'm working with a sense of urgency because we want to make sure the buttercream stays cold and we want to make sure the fondant doesn't dry out. Um, because once it starts to dry out, it'll crack when you go to stretch it. And if I wanted to, like if I just wanted to practice, I could, after I'm done, like if this cake was extra and nobody's going to eat it or we're going to eat it at Christmas, I could refrigerate it, let the fondant get cold, make sure the buttercream is cold, cut it, take it off the cake, then take some other fondant, rework it, and then cover it again. I can recover this cake with fondant as many times as I want to. As long as it's cold when I take the fondant off and it's cold when I go to cover it, and I keep my fondant covered. So see how I work it off of the cake and smooth it to the bottom with my hands. Trim a little bit off because that's going to make it easier to smooth that out. Cut straight down. And see, now we have the nice straight smooth sides, nice flat top. And then I just go back and clean up any excess. Like there's another little wrinkle. You can't really see it in this camera. Okay. I'm getting rid of any air bubbles that may be there. Put it back in the fridge. Now I take my scraps and work them back together and get those put away so we don't, waste them. And then the next time I go to roll out fondant, that's in there. It's in my bucket. Okay. And as always, it's easier to wrap it and store it. Here we go with the crumb coat. Crumb coat should be very thin. There's the how much fondant chart, which we already seen. Okay, now we're going to mark it and dowel it. So this is about the size of my top tier. It's a little bit smaller than my top tier. Um, so I'm going to use a bowl, a plate, something to mark where I'm going to put my dowels. See, it's a lot bigger than it looks. Um, so I can either press gently, I can use the back side of my knife because I want to make an indentation. I don't want to cut it. So I'm using the back side of my knife to make a circle. See, and then I just mark it because I got it centered. Now, if I want to put flowers on top of my cake and then put flowers on the side, I would offset that a little bit so I'd have a little bit more room to put my flowers. Now, let's see. Okay, so I've got straws, and I do so. Yep, and I've got some scraps from when I've done this before, so I'm using my scraps first. These are those Walmart party straws that are reusable, so they're pretty thick. I want to make sure this goes all the way to the bottom to the cardboard. Because sometimes if your buttercream is hard inside, it may stop. So I'm going to pull it up just a little bit so I can cut it. Because if I try to cut it without pulling it up, it's going to stick above my cake. So by doing that, and then I push it down, and now it's the exact height. Okay, see, and there it is. Then I am going to take it out with my clean pair of needle nose pliers that stays in my kitchen. And now I'm going to measure all of my straws to that length. So there's another scrap. It's a little bit long, so I'm going to cut it off. And get it to the right size. So I'm going to do this a couple more times. And it's easier to do this when you're not trying to do it across a cake for a camera. When you're doing it in front of yourself, it's a lot less clumsy looking. All right. So when I go to put these back, I need to. So I put one in and took it out. That one now has cake inside of it. So I need to put that straw back where it was. Because if I try to put this straw that has cake in it in another place, it's going to push it out and make a mess, or it could cause my cake to crack, depending on how big my columns are. And then the rest of them just go right in, straight down, inside my circle. And then I can use a little bit of buttercream or a little bit of royal icing. Notice how they're spaced pretty evenly and they're close to the outside circle so that the weight is distributed evenly. so that when I put my cake on and I go to cut it, the cake edge is sitting right there. So if I were to accidentally put these all too far in, like let's say I put them here, 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 and here, then that doesn't act as four columns. It ends up acting as one center column. And you're going to end up, your top cake is going to tilt off of that when you go to cut it. Okay, so now my cake is tiered or doweled. We're going to put a little bit of buttercream to hold it in place. Okay, so there's the buttercream. Then when you put the top tier on, you drop it basically. You get it centered where it's going to go, and then you just kind of pull the spatula out and let it fall. And that takes practice. And it really just takes practice to not be nervous at it. Okay, so I've put the buttercream on there, or royal, I can't remember which one it is, but you can see it's right there in the center. It's a pretty thin layer just to hold it in place. So I'm going to get the far side where it's supposed to be. Because my cakes are small, I don't have to do that. But usually you put the spatula underneath, then you line it up, then you pull it out and drop it. Okay, but see how it's sitting right there on the edge. So this will be covered up when I put the border on there. And that little bit will be covered up when I put the border on there. Wipe my cardboard off, use it again later. And that is how you stack a cake and cover it with fondant. Questions about anything? I really like that video. I like that you guys get to watch me do it in real time. So you can see how quickly it should go. And the more you do it, the better you'll get at it. Swear to God, the more you do it, the better you get at it. And it gets easier the more you do. Like when you do your next cake, it'll be a lot easier. And then when you do your third cake, it'll be a lot easier. It really, really, really gets easier the more you do it. So it takes practice. So cover cakes and fondant for your friends' birthdays just to get the practice. They don't have to eat it. They can peel it off, but just to let you get the practice of it. Or do like this. This is not that big of a cake. You can do like a small two-tiered cake. So if you're having a party for 60 people or 60 people are coming, make a two-tiered cake. That's enough cake for that many people. Or you can do a 10-inch base and a 6-inch top. But that'll give you the practice of stacking it before people are paying you to do it. So you can make your mistakes with your friends and family. Yeah, and practice with them. Any questions about anything? How do you guys feel about it now? Do you feel a little bit more comfortable? What's the best way to fix the leaning if it's leaning when it's covered in stack? If it's leaning because the dowels aren't the right length, take the top off, cut your dowels all to be the same length. Figure out which one is the shortest or the longest, whichever one is not the same height as the others. And just, you can take them all out, lay them down next to each other, and it'll be obvious which one is too tall. Just cut it to be the same height as the others, put them back in, and just put your cake back on top. And even if, let's say that you accidentally, okay, and this only works if it's very slight, but let's say that you accidentally didn't level your cake with the buttercream and it's just leaning a little bit, then what you want to do is you want to cut them to the height of the short side, because when you put the short one underneath, that little bit of buttercream, it'll take it as long as it's not too extreme. And you have to have a board under each cake. Yes, you absolutely have to have a board under each cake. And you guys saw me cut mine, so there was, a board under the top cake. And you have to have the straws to hold it in place. But yeah, if your top of your cake is just a little leaning, then you're going to go to the short side of your cake that's cake and not extra buttercream. Go to that side and then cut all your dowels to the short side. So then when you put it on this side, there'll be a little bit of extra buttercream above the straw. But when you sit it on top, because it's so slight, it should even out without you noticing. And then if you do notice that it's leaning and you've already put it together, then make sure that you put the flowers on there so it's less noticeable. So if it's leaning, then maybe turn it around so it's leaning towards, and then put the flowers so that that's the front of the cake. Because most wedding cakes will have a front and a back side, and you want the front side to be the pretty side. So if I have a side that I know is going to be the back, that's where I'm going to start putting the border so the border meets back up on the back side. Um, and then if let's say you do like a 3-tier cake and you're piping designs on them, don't start in the middle, because the middle cake right in the front center is where everybody always wants to start. That's our natural go-to place. Start on the bottom tier on the back and start practicing the design you're doing, and then do that part last, and that'll be the best. So you do the bottom, start in the back, go all the way around, do the top, start in the back, go all the way around, start in the middle, back, come around, or by the time you get to that point, you can do the center middle, so you can make sure you get it centered, and then do the rest of it around the other sides. Yes, and make sure you tilt it so it's the right camera angle. Um, yes, but that's why I've been saying every week since we've started doing cakes to level your cake tops, because you want to. It's easier to make a cake, to ice a cake and make it level if the cake is level to begin with. You know, we don't want to level it off with the buttercream. We want the cake layers to be nice and level, so it'll be stable. Because imagine you're doing like a 5-tier wedding cake. Um, yeah, you want to make sure that that's all stable before you drop it off and go. The last thing you want after you drop off a wedding cake is to get a phone call and somebody say, "Hey, the top tier is sliding off," or something horrible. You don't want to have to deal with that. So you want to make sure it's good to go before you send it. Any other questions about anything? All right, you guys have been an awesome class. I'm going to miss you. Hopefully, I'll get to see you again. Yeah, hopefully I'll get to see you again. If they keep me in the same 2 classes that I've been teaching, I'll see you guys again. So it has been a pleasure. I know you guys are all going to do great. If you have questions, reach out. This is the weekend that instructors usually check our messages pretty often, and I can answer questions for you. So it's been great, guys. I'm Chef Matt. This is PA120 Patisserie. This is our week 12 study hall. I've loved every minute of it. You guys are awesome, and I can't wait to see what you're going to do in the future. Take care. Bye.